Welcome back to Lessons from the Front and to Zululand, more specifically Isandlwana. Behind me is the memorial to the Natal Carbineers that fell at this battle on the 22nd of January 1879. And just behind that is Stony Ridge. Off to my left is Mount Isandlwana. Looking out over this landscape, it is incredible to see Isandlwana on a beautiful summer morning like this. The hills are lush and vibrant green, exactly as they were in January 1879, when they also had heavy recent summer rains. This battlefield holds a very deep personal significance for me, as I know it does for many other historians and gamers worldwide. Being here is truly humbling. Now, I won't be giving deep historical background on the battlefield today. There are so many fantastic channels out there that already do a far better job than I ever could. Instead, we are leaving the hills of Zululand behind us and heading off to Singapore to meet the members of Fireteam Elias and play out this game. Together with my fellow gamer Arjun, our resident expert on a custom grid-based variant of The Men Who Would Be Kings, we are recreationally tackling this monumental day. Here is how the battle unfolded on our tabletop. Right, so we're back in Singapore and it's time to meet the members of Fireteam Elias who will be playing in today's battle. Behind me on the left of the table is Milton, Zul, Elvin and Dom, who will be commanding the Zulu impis. And behind Arjun on the right of the table is Raja, Waylun and Bill, who will be commanding the British forces at Isandlwana. Incredibly, I've dusted off my 10mm Zulu war range that I painted 21 years ago for this battle. And they're going to be used for the very first time. I'm pretty excited about that. This is the table they're going to be playing on. A 6x4 foot table, ideal for the 10mm range. Stony Ridge and the Ngutu Plateau loom off the table edges. But here, on the veld, the stage is set. Cutting from west and snaking over the saddle is the wagon track, slicing right through the British camp before heading east towards the Zulu capital of Ulundi, about 100 kilometers away. At the eastern edge stands Conical Kopi, or Conical Hill, watching over the plain. Beneath the brooding shadow of Isandlwana lies the white bell tents of the British camp. Arjun and I have pre-deployed the British forces to mirror Colonel Pulleine's actual fatal lines on that historic morning. On the wagon trail, Durnford's mounted irregulars can be seen moving out, pushing forward to catch up with Lord Chelmsford, who has mistakenly split his command and marched away with half his force. And here, isolated and dangerously exposed far out in the open, sits the rocket battery. While the British command contemplated their frozen positions, the Zulu commanders took the measure of the field. As mentioned earlier, 4 of our players represented the Zulu commanders. Zul played as Prince Dabulamanzi, King Cetshwayo's half-brother, who historically went on to attack Rorke's Drift, and commanded the reserves, or what the Zulus refer to as the loins of the buffalo. Zul held his command back. Milton played as Machana Mondisa, and he commanded the right horn. Elvin played as Tingwayo Kamohole, and he commanded the chest. While Dom played as Gamana Kaindlela, commander of the left horn. With Zul and Milton initially holding their commands back, Elvin and Dom began a measured and menacing advance across the open ground towards the British left. The Hale rocket battery, caught in the open, were able to fire off one salvo before being overwhelmed by Dom's younger Ngoma Makosi regiment.
Come on, men!
However, as the great Zulu chest and left horn pressed forward towards the British, they were met by disciplined volleys of rough as red-coated infantry. Rank after rank of Martini-Henry rifles cracked in unison. sending heavy lead bullets tearing through the advancing warriors. The traditional cowhide shields that had served generations of Zulu fighters offered little protection against such firepower. Men fell in growing numbers, yet the impis continued to press forward through the storm of lead. Adding to the punishment were Wayland's 2 7-pounder guns. Positioned to support the infantry lines, the artillery crews worked tirelessly, hurling shell after shell into the dense Zulu formations. Each explosion tore gaps through the advancing ranks, slowing the momentum of the attack and buying precious time for the defenders. Perhaps most impressive of all were Bill's mounted irregulars. The Natal Native Horse and the Royal Natal Carbineers ranged aggressively against the Zulu advance. Their mobility allowed them to strike, withdraw, and strike again, constantly forcing Dom's warriors to pause, redeploy, and absorb further casualties. What should have been a swift advance from the eastern flank became a costly and frustrating struggle. By this stage of the battle, the British position appeared secure. The Zulu chest was pinned beneath relentless rifle fire. The left horn was losing momentum. Dom's advance had been slowed to a crawl by the mounted troops. Looking across the battlefield, it was difficult to see how King Cetshwayo's brave impis could finally break through. Yet just when it seemed the British line had weathered the worst of the storm, the battle took a dramatic turn. While the defenders remained heavily focused on fighting to their front and right, Milton seized the initiative. His right horn swept rapidly around the slopes of Isandlwana itself. The young warriors of the Unokenke and the Ududu regiments moving with remarkable speed and determination. Exploiting the gaps in the British deployment, they covered ground with alarming efficiency before bursting into the camp through the wagon park. Moments later, smoke began to rise above the battlefield. The Zulu warriors had reached the heart of the British position, setting fire to the camp and sending a powerful signal that the encirclement was nearing completion. Seizing his opportunity, Zul pushed the Utsulwana and other senior regiments forward in support. Following in Milton's wake, he then wheeled his warriors to the left, pinning the British flank and tightening the trap. Slowly but surely, the classic Zulu horns of the buffalo formation began to close. What had started as a determined defense was rapidly becoming a fight for survival. To make matters worse for the defenders, this was the moment we introduced one of the most controversial aspects of the historical battle, the ammunition supply problem.
How long have we got to wait, Quartermaster?
Get back in line, boy. Wait your turn.
But, sir...
Move!
Some bad news for you. You can see the Zulus have entered the camp. Plus, historically, they had challenges with their supply of ammo. So from now on, you roll a d6. That d6 tells you how many units get to fire at full strength. The rest will fire at half strength. Okay? As ammunition stocks began to run low, the steady rhythm of British fire started to falter. Gaps appeared in the once devastating wall of lead. Sensing weakness, the Zulu impis surged forward. Warriors who had spent hours enduring artillery shells and Martini-Henry volleys now closed the distance at a run, eager to bring the fight to close quarters. Across the battlefield, British units found themselves falling back, reforming, and then falling back again. The firing line began to buckle under relentless pressure. One position after another was overwhelmed as the Zulu regiments pressed home their attacks with extraordinary determination. Then came the final collapse. Just as their historical counterparts had done on that fateful day in January 1879, the defenders were gradually forced into a shrinking perimeter, fighting back to back in a desperate last stand. The Zulu assault from the northwest was particularly swift and brutal, sweeping through the camp before the British players could react. Even an opportunity to save the colours, a small chance to preserve a fragment of honour from the disaster, was extinguished almost as soon as it appeared. The camp was lost, the line was broken, and Isandlwana had fallen once again. And so, after 3 hours of intense tabletop gaming, King Cetshwayo's warriors had repeated one of the most remarkable victories in military history. The Zulu players had shown patience, determination, and excellent coordination, eventually overcoming superior firepower through maneuver, timing, and sheer persistence. Arjun and I would like to thank all the members of Fireteam Elias for the fantastic spirit in which this game was played. It was a long battle, fiercely contested from beginning to end, and every player contributing to make it a memorial event. We would also like to extend our sincere thanks to Darren for arranging the venue and to Elias Community Centre for generously hosting this game and supporting our club activities. Finally, on a personal note, I would also like to offer a special thank you to my brother Frank. Our road trip into Zululand gave us the opportunity to visit this battlefield itself, walk the ground, and gather invaluable first-hand information that helped bring this project to life. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Lessons from the Front. If you have, please consider sharing this video with your friends and fellow gamers. And be sure to join us for the next chapter of the Anglo-Zulu War, when we cross the Buffalo River and recreate one of history's most famous defensive actions, the defense of Rorke's Drift. So until next time, happy gaming!